Well, good morning, homesteaders and gardeners and everybody else alike. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We made it through the storm. Everything is pretty good in the garden. We only had really one major downfall, and I'm going to show you just kind of a little bit of what happened there, not a whole lot. But I also want to check on my seeds just to make sure, because we got 8 inches of rain in about 6 hours time, so it was like torrential downpours. But I just want to take a quick peek and see what's going on there. And then other than that, the garden did pretty well. My house, on the other hand, I need to get a new roof, but whatever. I'm not even going to worry about that on this one. Tomatoes were flopping over pretty hard, and I actually had some of these laying around, so I just drove them into the ground and just tied them forward and pulled some weight on them. And they're actually standing up now, so that's good. I've got 4 tomatoes in this one bed, and 3 of them did fine, and then this one, it just kind of flopped. So you can see it gave way and fell over. I may end up trying to save it, so if I just pull it like that, maybe I can run a string from here to pull it up just to finish out the season. I don't know what it is about this bed, but it creates very large tomato plants. I did use smaller cages, so after this season, I will get rid of all of my smaller cages because I didn't have that problem in my other garden, but in my other garden bed. But at least I know now, and otherwise, this is what I was really worried about. Everything else is really young, so the seedlings did fine. But the seeds that I did in the wild garden that we showed last video, I was a little concerned about those. I haven't even checked on them yet. So I want to take a peek and see what's going on there. A lot of rain on some freshly seeded ground. The storm kind of snuck up on us, so I wasn't able to prepare totally for it. But the ones I'm really concerned about are the carrot seeds. So much to my surprise, I know it's hard for you guys to see because they're super small, but the collard seedlings are still there. I mean, we've got some debris and stuff, a leaf, but we do have other seedlings going. So that worked at least. The front row up top is the parsnips. So I'm not really sure what the deal with those are. They're still gonna be a little while before they come up. But you can see how that torrential rain just kind of leveled this whole ground out really good. It's a little bit of a blessing. It was really chunky. You know, I dug the furrows and pulled it up, and there was a lot of soil there, and it was real chunky, and I was a little bit concerned about it, but that torrential rain really broke it up and flattened it out, which is good in the long run. So this bed here and here have carrots in it, and these are the ones I'm concerned about. So let's take a peek. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we do have carrots germinating. So that was really fast, and doesn't look like it was too bad. I mean, I don't see the ground torn up overly, you know, nothing terrible. So we definitely have at least 1 double row of carrots going across that looks unscathed. And then if we come to this bed, yeah, we've got carrots going all the way down. That is very good news. All the way down, we've got that double row going, so I'm happy about that. You know, that's impressive to me that you can get something like that and have terrible rains, very hard, very fast, and for a very long period of time. I mean, 6 hours to get that kind of rain, 1 inch an hour is really a lot of rain. And I think total, we got about 10 inches of rain through the storm. Here's my one limb that's down, boo-hoo. So that's very good news. Now, as far as my house goes, it does suck, but I mean, at least we're gonna get a new roof out of it. There's a whole story about that I don't really want to get into, but the moral of the story is when it comes to these tropical systems, it doesn't matter if it's a Cat 1 tropical storm, Cat 4, 5, they can all be either terrible or not so bad. And you just kind of got to roll with the punches. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep preparing on schedule for fall. So we're actually, as the storm passed, we got a nice high pressure system that came behind it. I woke up this morning and it was like 58 degrees outside. It's gonna be very short-lived, but I'm gonna take advantage of it. I always try and take advantage of this weather when it comes in, and I'm gonna start some seeds today. So we are going to start a round of, what do we have here? We're gonna start a round of Sun Angel spinach. So this is a more heat tolerant variety. And we're also gonna start a round of romaine lettuce, a Jericho variety. So this is also a heat tolerant variety, and this will be our first sowing for the season of these, and that's why we're using these heat tolerant varieties. So I'm just gonna fill this tray up with them. I think I'm gonna do, I have 6 rows here. I'm probably gonna do 4 rows of lettuce and then 2 rows of spinach to start off with. And I think that'll get us in the right direction. I just wanna stay on top of it. I don't really wanna fall behind, because this time of year, if you fall behind, you miss your window. And so I definitely don't want to be missing my window at all for this. And I'm using Pro Mix for this general purpose. And I've really liked using this. I've said this before, but I'll say it basically every time I do this. I've made my own seed starting mix for years, but the ease of doing this has made it a lot better, especially when you're starting a larger volume of seeds. It's just quick because I can just get it done and get out of here and move on to the next project. So once I give it a good water, I'm just going to come in, make my divots, drop my seeds in, and then I cover it with the perlite, which I really like this method. So I recommend that you at least give it a shot this year and see how you like it. And we're gonna do a couple things with these seeds. So because these are all heat tolerant seeds, the plan as of right now, and I do reserve the right to change this at any time that I see fit, is to take these heat tolerant seeds and basically just put them right out in the garden in the heat when they're ready. And as far as the spinach goes, since it's the first sowing, and we're probably going to be doing rapid sowings after this. I might be running a little bit lower on lettuce seeds than I wanted. Maybe not. Then I will take and put those in the first row in the wild garden that I said I was going to put them in, and also put them in pots. That's the plan with those. I mean, because the pots heat up faster than the soil, so it should work out pretty good that they're heat tolerant and at least get them started. And now the issue with the heat tolerance is going to be that they end up, they're not as cold tolerant. So we have another cold tolerant, which I believe is just your standard Bloomsdale spinach. We have that as well. And then we'll put that in the ground as it gets a little bit cooler. Probably in I'd say probably in a week, I'll end up starting that Bloomsdale spinach as well. And then we'll be able to get those in the ground, this week or week after these would go into the ground. And that should give us enough to go in. But we're also going to take some of these, and I'm not sure how many of these we'll take. We may take them and separate them, put some of them in 6-packs, and then set these in the greenhouse as well, since they're heat tolerant. And what we deal with in this fall is more heat in the greenhouse than we would like to. And so that'll give that a chance to grow as well. And it is going to be tight to see if I can get the exact amount of seeds to fill up these trays. Typically like to sow all of the same species of seeds in one tray, because I only have to label it once. So it makes my life a little bit easier, and we're going to be a little bit short, a couple cells short, which goes into the fact that I'm honestly not that concerned about it, because I can tell when spinach and lettuce are different. So I can visually look at it and it's not going to be a big deal. I'll know which one's which. So we can just take them and put them right into the ground. No need to label, because honestly I'm running out of sticks to label. And these are so much easier to start. So much bigger to see and easier to space out. And I think for these are pretty fresh seeds, so I'm just gonna put 2 per each cell. Always want 1 for backup, you know, in case something happens. I made the executive decision and I started a second tray of the Sun Angel spinach. Just go ahead and get it out of the way. What's the worst thing can happen, right? I looked in the pack of seeds and I had plenty of seeds, so I wasn't really concerned about it, but I figured now's the time. That could very well conclude our Sun Angel spinach sowing, more than likely. So a couple things depend on that. It was 1, if it's going to continue, if they're going to germinate, you know, 2, if they bolt, and C, if we have enough. Spinach can go in a lot of places. It can be very tightly packed. I can do that. I can also direct sow spinach fairly easily in my area as well. So that being said, I need to be careful, but why not start a second one? And it's really easy. If it starts to get too big before I can plant it in the ground, or I can get it in the greenhouse, then we have an option. If these get too big, I have an option to do what's called slip potting. So what I do here is I'll just get a 6 cell pack and very carefully pluck it out. And so the best way to do that is I get it nice. I'll either do it when it's really dry, if it's not overly hot and it's dry, I'll let the soil dry a little bit, and that way it'll kind of pluck out all together. Or I'll saturate it really good. It's not an in-between. So if I saturate it really good, it should clump back together. And if I do it that way, I kind of need to work it up from the bottom, so it's got the drainage holes in each cell, and I can kind of put a stick in there or something and just tease it out real quick. The idea with slip potting is you're not disturbing the roots at all. All you're doing is you're plucking it out and dropping it into another cell. I do this a lot with my bonsai. When you go to repot those trees, they're very time specific a lot of times. And what'll happen is I'll go through the season and I'll say, hey, you know what? It's getting root bound, pot bound. I want something else to develop on. It's a little bit more technical, but without doing a full trimming of the roots and all of that kind of stuff that we're not going to get into here, I can slip pot it with minimal issue to the plant, with minimal disturbance. So anytime I pull it out, it's definitely going to disturb the plant. But this way, if I do it gently and I literally just pull it out and put it in another pot with pre-wetted soil and everything and then cover it up, it's very minimal disturbance to that plant. And then I just I'll essentially be giving it double the room to grow. So it won't get root bound, because I don't really want those roots to start wrapping around. That's when you're going to get a lot of stunting of the plant and stuff like that. You don't get really good growth. It'll have to recover. This way it can kind of go right in and then recover all at the same time. And you're not changing it any kind of sun or anything at the same time. You're just kind of right next to it, boom, and you're done. Other than things being beat down in the garden, I really do think most of these will recover just fine all over the place. And we'll probably end up putting our sunshades back up. Just to give you an idea of what our weather is like right now as we seed, it's today is gonna be a high of like 82. Low of, let's just say 60, could be 58, could be 62, somewhere in there. And then tomorrow is going to be the same, and then the next day it's going to be 90, and we'll be back up into the low 90s for the next week with lows in the mid 70s. By taking these seeds and putting them in the position that I did, they can still benefit from the heat but not the crazy sun. So it'll be a little bit cooler. And back here where we do all of our seeding and stuff like that, we've actually had really good luck with germination. I mean, you can see right now that these are getting dappled sunlight, and we'll get a little bit more just on and off through the day. So these kinds of plants it works really good for, and it doesn't allow them to overheat, and it keeps them cooler. And the little bit of warm temperatures that it is gonna get, which when I say a little bit, it is gonna be pretty warm, it speeds up the germination. Really talking, you know, a couple days and they should be germinated, and we'll be off to the races at that point. And then based on the weather at that point and how warm it is how soon I will start moving it out somewhere amongst my garden here. This half of my garden gets more shade than this half. So generally what I do is when I go to move those seeds out to get a little bit more sun, I'll put them in the shadier half first, and then I'll just kind of work them down. And a lot of times what I like to do is, like this bed, for instance, with all the Brussels sprouts, I'll just lay them in the bed because they're not taking over the whole bed, and then just kind of move them down as I see fit until they get to where I want them to be, or until I get enough sunlight to where I can move them and I won't shock them too bad, because you definitely don't want to just be like, all right, here's your shady spot, bam, good luck. That's not what you want to do. That's a recipe for disaster. I take them from the shady spot, put them over here for a couple days where it's getting dappled sunlight, a little bit more direct sun, and then over there into the far corner is where it can be. And I've actually been taking advantage of this trellis here, my cattle panel, and I'll show you what I've been doing. I had some broccoli seeds left over, and I just kind of left them right next to it, and they do get a fair amount of shade. We're getting about half a day's worth of sun from here. Now they've been beaten down pretty hard, and I either need to plant them or get rid of them, but it's actually working out pretty good to put them there. But as you can see, I can move stuff back further and further, and I may actually do that, is just start things here and then move them out, and that way they're going to get more and more sun. And in all this process, the storm ended and we came out and we started building our next garden bed.